also Mr. Marco, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless you with Baracha v'Atzlacha. And for all of us here at Hashem to have big Atzlacha in everything we do. You know, Rabotai, right now, we are right now in Asara Yamei Teshuva. Right now, we find ourselves in the 10 days of Teshuva. Baruch Hashem, we passed Rosh Hashanah just a week ago. Baruch Hashem, we passed the full month of Elul, the full month of Slichot, the full month of prayers and Shiurim and Divrei Torah. Now, Rabotai, if we all of us, we've been to the shul, we've been to a class, we've been to a shiur, and there's something very constant that comes up throughout every shiur, throughout every prayer, throughout even the name of the days that right now that when Teshuva. You go to any rabbi, he speaks about Teshuva. You go to any speech, they speak about Teshuva. You go to Shul Mincha, the rabbi gets up between Mincha and Avit. What does he speak about? Teshuva. The 10 days that we're in right now, the 10 days that are between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, what are they called? The 10 days of Teshuva. Now, Rabotai, everyone speaks about Teshuva, but no one speaks about what is Teshuva. Teshuva, okay, a person that did Chas v'Shalom a sin and he wants to repair himself. But what is Teshuva? What does a person need to have within him for him to be able to get up and to do Teshuva? What does a person need to do to be considered that he did a real Teshuva? And we're going to try, B'at Hashem, to explain. We're going to bring a couple of stories from the Gemara, we're going to bring a couple of stories from the Zohar Kadosh, to try to understand what is Teshuva, and to try to understand what does a person need within him to be considered that he did Teshuva. You know, Rabotai, in Masechet Avodah Zarah, in the Gemara, in page Yudchet, in page 18, there's a beautiful story with one of the Asara Arugei Malchut. Asara Arugei Malchut were 10 tzaddikim that they were killed, they died for the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Each one of those 10 tzaddikim, they died, they gave their own life just for the Torah. The Romans at the time, they were not allowed to learn Torah. And each one of those 10 tzaddikim, they went against them and they continued learning Torah and they continued teaching Torah. As a punishment for that, the Romans, they killed each and every one of them with one worse than the other one. As we know, one of the Asara Arugei Malchut is Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, that we know, how did he die? Rabbi Akiva died, they took brushes of metal, and they scraped his skin off. They scraped the skin that was on his body, just for us to understand Be'emet, how bad the Asara Arugei Malchut, the way they passed away. In Masechet Avodah Zarah, there it speaks about Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion. Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion was known to be a big tzaddik, a big Tana of the time of the Gemara, 2,000 years ago. Now, Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion, when he was caught by the Romans, he was caught because they told him that he's not allowed to learn Torah, and he continued with his shiurim, he continued with his learning like nothing ever happened. The Romans wanted to the Romans wanted to punish him in a way that to teach everyone a lesson, that to not do what he did. So the Romans were thinking, what should we do? What can we do to be'emet, to make this person suffer? What can we do to this person to be'emet, to make him suffer? Abotai, the Romans, they came up with a very, very horrible idea, and it's even hard to understand. They took Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion, and they tied Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion. They took a Sefer Torah, Rabotai, and they dipped that Sefer Torah in what? They dipped that Sefer Torah in oil. They took the Sefer Torah that is drenching in oil, and they wrapped the Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion with that Sefer Torah. Now, Rabotai, when they sat and they wanted to make sure that this death is a very, very hard death, what did they think of? They said, if he burns, he'll die quickly. So we have to do something that he won't die quickly. Rabotai, what did they do? They took cloth. And they took this cloth and they filled it with water. And that water cloth they put on his chest. Like that, his whole body will burn, but his heart will stay beating. His heart of Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion will stay another minute, will stay another couple of minutes. Why? Because it's protected with the water of the cloth. Rabotai, just trying to think about it, it's horrible. It's a horrible thought to even imagine. Now the Gemara says, when they took fire, they took the fire and they lit Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion. They lit him on fire, and he was burning on fire. The Gemara said that he was screaming from pain. The Gemara says that while the parchment of the Sefer Torah was burning, the letters were not burning with the Sefer Torah. The letters, the Gemara said that they would go up to the sky, to Shamayim Hall. The parchment itself was burning. Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion was burning, but the letters, they flew up. They went straight to Shamayim. Now, the students of Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, they saw something very interesting. Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, when he was sitting there, he was screaming, he was keeping his mouth closed. And he didn't want to open his mouth. He was very, very stubborn, not opening his mouth. So all his students, they came, they ran up to him while he's mamash burning and screaming. They told him, Rabbi, open your mouth. The fire will enter through your mouth and you'll die quicker. While Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion is burning, while Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion is mamash going through hell in this world, he looked at them and he told them, I'd rather suffer a couple of more minutes, but not take 1 second away from the life that Hashem gave me. I don't want to be in charge even of taking away 1 second that Hashem gave me. So he said, there's no way, I am not opening my mouth. One of the guards there, the Roman guard, when he saw the Sefer Torah is burning, the letters are going to Shamayim, and he sees that Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, a Jew, is standing there, and he's not willing to do one thing, to take away 1 second of his life, because he says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he doesn't want to take away even a second. The guard understood that there's something more special. He understood that there's something else that he should be a part of. This Roman guard, this Rasha, came up to Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, and he asked Rabbi Hanina, he said, Rabbi Hanina, let's do a deal. If I take out your cloth and I add oil to the fire, do you promise me that you give me paradise? Do you promise me that you give me Chayei Olam Haba? Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion said, you have a deal. The Roman said, that's not enough. I'm not going to have you have a deal. That's not considered a word. This Roman guard made Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion swear that if he takes away the life of Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion a little bit faster, he made him swear that he will give him Olam Haba. So he swore that he would give him Olam Haba. This guard, he went, he pulled out the cloth, and he spilled a lot of oil. When Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, when the fire got high, he thought to himself, and he said he saw the truth. He had a moment where he saw the truth. And he said, there's nothing more in this world for me. The guard jumped into the fire with Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion. The guard and Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, they both died in that very moment. Rabotai, the Gemara says that after Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion and that guard, they died, a big voice was heard from Shamayim. A big voice was from the sky, was screaming. And what did this voice say? This voice said, Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, and you, the guard, הרי אתם מוכנים ומזומנים לחיי עולם הבא. What does that mean? That voice said, you, Rabbi Hanina ben Tadion, and you, the guard, you are ready and you are invited to Chayei Olam Haba. You are ready and invited to paradise. Now, Rabotai, if we take this story and we try to understand it, this guard, this Roman goy, that all his life was a Rasha. This Roman guard, that all his life, who knows how many things he did? Who knows how many Jews he killed? Who knows how many averot he did? In 1 second, Rabotai, in one moment that he took upon himself to do Teshuva, he became from a Rasha, from a Roman guard, he was invited from a Mash, invited from the Shekhinah to Chayei Olam Haba. What does this teach us, Rabotai? It teaches us something very big. Teshuva, the concept of Teshuva, Rabotai, it's a matter of a moment. The concept of Teshuva is a matter of a second that a man takes something, a thought comes to his head, and he takes that thought of Teshuva, and he holds on to that thought. In that very moment, he can change everything, Rabotai. In one moment that a person decides that he wants to do Teshuva, in one moment he changes everything. And we see that from that guard, from becoming a person that kills Jews, to be invited to Chayei Olam Haba. Rabotai, in one moment. You know, 2 weeks ago we read in the parasha, Lo b'shamayim. What does that mean? The Torah, the mitzvot, the tshuva, it's not in the sky, Rabotai. The tshuva, it's here. It's mamash. It's in front of every single one of us. The Torah, the mitzvot, it's in front of every single one of us. But Rabotai, each and every one of us needs to do the effort. Needs to get up and do his little part. And only after he does his little part, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu can come and help him to continue forward with his Teshuva. So I will tell you something very big that we're going to try to we're going to strengthen a little bit. The concept of Teshuva, of the Teshuva of the moment, the Teshuva that a man does in one moment. In Masechet Shabbat, in page Nun Zayin, in Nun in 57, there the Gemara speaks about a man that his name was Natan Tzutzaita, Risha de Galuta. This Natan Tzutzaita, the Gemara speaks about him that he was a very, very rich man. This Natan Tzutzaita was one of the richest men that existed at his time. 2,000 years ago, one of the richest men that existed in Yerushalayim was this Natan Tzutzaita. But the Gemara adds one more thing about him. The Gemara says about Natan Tzutzaita that he was known to be one of the biggest Reshaim that existed at his time. The Gemara says that every opportunity, any opportunity to do a sin, he was the first one that got up and ran to do the sin. Any opportunity, he had the smallest opportunity to get up and to do a sin, you can be sure that Natan Tzutzaita would be there. Now, to even go further, the Gemara even gave him a nickname. The Gemara gave him a nickname. I'm not going to mention the nickname, but the Gemara gave him a nickname of a man that looks for a woman. I'm not going to give a nickname. It's not a nice word. So the Gemara Be'emet speaks about this man, very rich man, but also big Rasha. One day, this Natan Tzutzaita was walking in the street, and he sees a woman. He said, that's it. Retzara attacked him. He said, I will do everything to have this woman. This woman was a Jewish girl. Her name was Chana. This Chana was married to a very poor, simple man. Natan Tzutzaita, he was a very rich man. No one ever said no to him. Very rich. He was one of the richest men. He approached Chana and he told Chana, I want you to do a sin with me. So Chana, that she was a tzaddiket, she said, there's no way. You can jump up and down. I'm not doing you stay away from me. Natan Tzutzaita, he said, okay, so I'll offer you big money. And this Chana said, I don't care how much money you give me. You can give me all the money that you have. It doesn't matter to me. I am not doing anything with you. This Natan Tzutzaita, mamash, he became obsessed. And like that, every day, he would go to the house of this Chana, beg on her door, and offer her all the money he has. Offer her everything that he has. But he wanted to do one sin with her. Abotai, the Yetzirah attacked him with Chana and didn't want to let him go. Now, after many months of Be'emet trying his luck, he slowly started to get sick. He was so obsessed, Rabotai, that he started to get sick. He was so obsessed about the fact of looking for this Chana that he started to get sick. The doctors, when they thought that he started to get sick, they ran to the rabbis, they ran to Chazal, and they told him, this Natan is starting to get sick, and the only way that he'll be able to get over his sickness, if he goes and he does Zavira with Chana. When Chachamim heard this, they said, this Natan will die, and we will not let him, not even for a minute, the sin with Chana. A couple of weeks later, he got even sicker. The doctors came back to Chazal. They said, Natan is even sicker than when he was before. Let's let him at least just look at her. Maybe if he looks at her, something will change and he will become healthy again. Chachamim said he'll die and he won't even look at her. Again, a couple of weeks, he was still in his shvung, I don't know what you want to call it. And he got even sicker and sicker, and the doctor approached him. Again, they said, you know what? Let's let him just talk to her. Maybe if he talks to her, he'll be able to get better with his sickness. The Gemara says, the Chachamim said, he will die and he won't talk to her. Again, a couple of weeks later, at this point, this Natan Tzutzaita was a vegetable in bed. He was mamash like a vegetable in bed. He wasn't eating, he wasn't talking, nothing about that. It was mamash like a person that's in the hospital that's connected to a machine. That was Natan Tzutzaita. The doctor said, let's let him maybe talk through a wall. We'll put Chana here, we'll put Natan there, and they'll talk through the wall, and maybe something will happen. Maybe he'll get better. Chachamim said, a Rasha like him, he won't even talk through the wall tzaddiket like Hannah. And he'll die. Rabotai, for meanwhile, Hannah and her husband, we know that they were very, very poor. And the husband of Hannah was a very poor, simple man, and he owed a lot of money to a lot of people, Rabotai. And one day, these people, they knocked on the door of the house of Hannah, and they took the husband of Hannah. They took the husband of Hannah and they put him in a jail, in like a cell, and they told him and Hannah, until you don't bring the money that you owe, we're not letting him free. And like that, a couple of months passed. Every day, Hannah would come to the cell, come to the jail, bring food, bring water for her husband that is sitting in jail. After a couple of months, now, Rabotai, you know, jail today is a hotel to jail at once. Jail at the time was a hole in the ground with bars on top. It wasn't the jail that you picture today that it's fancy. So after a couple of months that he's sitting in the hole, he started to get this. The husband of Hannah started to lose his mind a little bit. One day, when Hannah came to bring him food, he looked at Hannah and he told Hannah, "Look at me. I'm sitting here in a hole. I'm rotting to death. I'm going to end up dying here because I don't have the money to pay off the bill. And you won't have the money either. So the end of my life will be in this hole. And there's nothing I can do about it." Now he looks at Hannah and he tells, "But you know, Hannah, there's one thing that you can do about it." We know, he's giving now Hannah's speech. He tells Hannah, you know, the Gemara says that a person that saves one Jew, it's like he saved an entire world. He tells Hannah, we know that Natan Tzutzaita, he offered you any money. Go to Natan Tzutzaita, do one sin with him, ask for the money and free me. When Hannah heard this, she said, "You lost your mind. You completely lost your mind. For an avera like that, for a sin like that, Hashem brought the Mabul to the Olam. Because of a sin like that, Hashem destroyed the whole world." You're talking about saving a world. Because of sins like that, Hashem destroyed the world. So this poor man started screaming at Hannah, and he was telling her, "You know, you act like you're a kosher woman. You act like you're such a big tzaddiket, when really I know you love Natan, and you're waiting for the day that I will die, so you can go and marry Natan." This Hannah, when she heard this, she started to cry. She was offended. They were arguing, and she went home. She went home. The Gemara says that she went home, and she cried for 8 days in her house. She was so hurt from what her husband told her that for 8 days she didn't even go to bring food and water to her husband. After 8 days, they came to her and they told her that your husband is any minute, he's out. He's a Sayyid. He's going to die any minute, any moment. So she got up and she ran towards the cell. She got to the cell and she sees her husband on the floor, and he's completely mamash, his last moments. He moves his head to her, mamash, with the last couple of breaths he has, and he said, "Hashem will punish you for what you did to me." He said, "Hashem will punish you, and he will punish you because you have in your hands now to save me, and you're not saving me." Now, listen, a person, you can be the biggest tzaddiket, you can be the biggest tzaddik, but a person is a person. She started to cry. She got up and she started to run towards the house of who? Of Natan Tzutzaita, the big rich Rasha. And she's running towards his house. She looks at the gates, the big palace of Natan. Before she enters the gates, she looks up to Shamayim and she goes, "Ribono shel Olam." She looks up and she says, "Hashem, I am going right now, Hashem, to do this sin. Now, Hashem, you know that I'm doing this sin not because I want to do this sin. I'm doing this sin because I have no other choice." So she looked in Shamayim and she started begging from Hashem, "Hashem, please save me from this sin. Hashem, please don't put me in the hands of Natan Tzutzaita. Don't put me in the hands of that Rasha." And she entered the gates. When she entered the gates, the big palace of Natan Tzutzaita, one of the richest men at the time, all the guards, all the maids, at the time there were slaves, they saw, this is Hannah, the Hannah that Natan is sick because of her. They ran to Natan. They told Natan, Chana is outside. Natan suddenly has so much energy. He gets up. He says, Chana is outside. If Chana is outside, then tell her. Then if Chana is outside and it's true, all of the slaves, all of the maids, everyone is a free man. Everyone, you're all free. So he gets up, he gets dressed, and now he's waiting in his room for Chana. He waits for Chana. Chana opens the door. She enters into the room. He looks at her and he tells her, you know, for so many years I waited for you. So many years I got so sick for you, and now you're finally here. So how much money do you want? Chana looked at him. She said, listen, Natan, I'm not doing this because I want to, and I'm not doing this because it's even my last option. I'm doing this because I have no other choice. She said, my husband is dying in jail, and I have to do this because at the end of the day, my husband's going to die, and I have to do what I have to do to save my husband. So he said, okay, so how much do you want? So she told him the amount of money that she needs. He went to his room, picked up a box, filled it up with the money that she needed. He handed her the money. She took the money and she put it down. Before anything happened, she looked at Natan and she told Natan, Natan, before you do anything, I want to talk for 1 minute. Give me 1 minute to talk to you. Give me 1 minute just to explain, to say a couple of words. He said, you know what? Go ahead, talk. This Chana, she looked at Natan and she told Natan, you know, Natan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, He forgives, but He'll never forget. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu never forgets what a person does. If it's to the good or if it's to the bad, He never forgets. Now you, Natan, right now you have a choice. You have two choices in your hand. You have a good choice and a bad choice. If right now you continue and we do the sin, what happens is you will end up finding yourself in eternity of punishment. You will find yourself in a situation where there is no light in the end of the tunnel. You're going to find yourself with a big punishment. And if you take right now this moment and you go to the other side and you take this as tzedakah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will repay you with eternity of bracha, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will repay you with so much brachot and so much mitzvot. She told him, you know, Natan, for 1 hour of this world, for 1 hour of pleasure in this world, you will lose everything of the next world. You will lose everything that you ever, maybe you had something that you did good, you're going to lose everything. So for 1 hour of this world, you're going to lose everything for the next world. If you give up 1 hour of pleasure in this world, you have the eternity of joy in the next world. The Gemara says, when after Chana spoke to him, he fell on the ground. And he started to cry, and he was on the floor and crying and crying and crying. While he's crying, he looks up to the sky and starts screaming, Hashem, please, give me the strength to fight Yitzhara 1 time. Hashem, please, give me the strength to do 1 time to fight Yitzhara. And like that, the Gemara says he sat on the floor for a couple of minutes and he was just crying and crying and crying. After a couple of minutes, he gets up, he looks at Chana, he tells Chana, the money that you have, consider it tzedakah. Take that money that you have, go free your husband, and it's tzedakah. It is pidyon shvuim. Consider it as pidyon shvuim. She was happy, she went her way, she went to quickly go pay the bills. The Gemara says, and Natan Tzutaita, he stood there and he continued to cry, and he was singing to Hashem and thanking Hashem that Hashem gave him 1 time the strength to fight 1 time Yitzhara. The Gemara says that when she freed her husband, when they were coming home, the husband looked at her and started to scream at her and curse her. Look at you, look what you did. You listened to me at the time when I was my machshava. I wasn't me at that time, and you listened to me and you went and you did that sin. Shame on you! Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. Now Chana was trying to explain to him that she really didn't do anything, but he was stubborn on the fact that she did a sin. And that very day, Natan Tzutaita became healthy, and he got up. The Gemara says that Rabbi Akiva was on a rooftop in that very day, and he was sitting on the rooftop with a couple of his students, and he was learning. And suddenly, he sees the horse of Natan Tzutzaita marching through the city. And the eyes of Rabbi Akiva, he was shocked. What does Rabbi Akiva see? Rabbi Akiva saw Natan Tzutzaita, the big Rasha Natan Tzutzaita, running with Malachei HaSharet running over him, with Malachei HaSharet protecting him from each side, with the angels of Hashem from every direction standing with him. When this Rabbi Akiva, when he saw this, he said that Natan Tzutzaita did something good. The fact that all the angels of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they're standing with him and they're marching with him, then he did something. He looked at his students and he told the students, what do you see? So the students, they look and they say, yeah, this is Natan Tzutzaita Rasha. He said, you didn't see anything else? He said, no. So he said, go call the husband of Hannah. Go bring the husband of Hannah. And they called the husband of Hannah, and he explained that nothing ever happened because he saw that what happened with Natan Tzutzaita. Now, Rabotai, what do we learn? What do we see from here? We see the same thing. We see the moment that a person had, a second, that came to Natan Tzutzaita, a choice between the good and the bad. And he took that moment that he had of the choice between the good and the bad, and he chose the good, Rabotai. Rabotai, Teshuva is a matter of a moment. Teshuva is a matter when a person has the choice, good and bad in his hands, and he chooses the good. That moment that he chose the good, Rabotai, he can change everything. In that very moment, he can become from the biggest Rasha, he can be the biggest Rasha, and become into a big tzaddik, and become into a big mamash tzaddik. Rabotai, right now, we're in the Asarei Yemei Teshuva. If there's any time that we can find that moment, if there's any time that we can search for that moment, that 1 second, that one moment where we find Teshuva, Rabotai, it's now. It's before Yom Kippur. We know that Rosh Hashanah is Yom Adin, but Yom Kippur, it's the day of Rachamim. It's the day where Hashem listens to our prayers, Rabotai. So, Rabotai, it's very important of what we say with Nyan Teshuva. Now, Rabotai, in the Zohar Kadosh, in the Zohar Chadash, in Daf Pei Zayin, there is a beautiful story with Harav Zamir. Rabbi Zamir was a big tzaddik at the time of the Zohar Kadosh. You can find Harav Zamir throughout the whole Zohar. You can find him in the Gemara. He was a big tzaddik and in that time. Again, also 2,000 years ago. The Zohar Kadosh says a story about this Zamir, Rabbi Zamir, that one day Rabbi Zamir, he left his city, and he was so busy, he was leaving his city, and he was so busy with Torah, he was learning, he was doing so many things, that after a couple of days of not even realizing that time passed, he finds himself, he's in complete desert. Rabbi Zamir finds himself, he looks left, he sees 200 miles of desert. He looks right, he sees 200 miles of desert. From every direction, he sees 200 miles of desert. But he sees from far, Rabotai, a little mountain. That mountain is burning with fire. That mountain is burning with fire and with mamash smoke coming out from every direction of the mountain. Rabbi Zamir, he decided, he said, you know what, if there's a mountain with fire, then maybe I can find something there. So he started walking towards this fire, this mountain. When he started to get closer to the mountain, he realized that he sees an Arab, a man that he's an Arab, and he's in the desert. This Arab approaches Rabbi Zamir and tells Rabbi Zamir, what are you doing here? What is your name and what are you doing here? Rabbi Zamir looked at this Arab and told him, I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't know where I am. And the more that I'm trying to figure out where I am, I just get more lost and more lost and more lost. This Arab said, there's no need to worry. I was born in this desert. I know this desert inside out. I will show you the way to leave this desert and to get to the place that you want to get to. So this Arab said, before, I want to show you something amazing. This Arab takes Rabbi Zamir and he starts walking him towards the mountain that's flaming with fire. They approach the mountain and the Arab tells Rabbi Zamir, put your ear on the mountain. Rabbi Zamir, he looks said, okay. He puts his ear on the mountain, and he was shocked. He hears screaming. He hears screaming of people that are screaming, mamash, screams like that he's never heard in his life. So he got scared, and he understood that was one of the mountains that lead, mamash, or the opening to where? To Gehenna. That mountain was one of the openings to hell itself. This Rabbi Zamir, he looked at the Arab and he said, now I understand why I was lost. I was from Mishamayim, I was supposed to come here to hear these screams. So he said, okay, he was so scared, he said, I have to get out of here. He was organizing his stuff. The Arab said, go here. He started to give him directions, and the Arab disappeared. Rabbi Zamir, he quickly started to collect his stuff, and he said, I have to get out of this place quickly. I don't like this place. While he was walking, he looks in the mountain, and he sees a big crack in the mountain. And inside that crack, he sees 4 angels dragging a man on chains, and this man is screaming. And he's screaming with like a scream like that you cannot even imagine. Rabbi Zamir, even a man like him, it's such a scary thing to see. He got so scared, he dropped his things and he started to run. And when he was running, he tripped, he fell, and he fainted. This Rabbi Zamir, while he fainted, he starts to dream. And in this dream, he dreams a man that comes to him in the dream. Who is this man? It's the man that was being dragged. The man that he saw through the crack in the mountain that they're dragging him. So he looks at this man and he tells this man, I understand that you're from Gehenna. You're in Gehenna, you're in hell. And he looked at this man and he asked this man, what did you do in your life that they punished you to go to Gehenna? So this man looks at Rabbi Zamir and he tells him, I lived in Galil. I lived in Eretz Israel, in the Galil. And I owned a store that used to sell meat. I owned a Mehadrin store of meat. And all my life I sold meat to the Jews. And all my life I sold neverot v'trefot. All my life I sold to the Jews the best meat, but really it was always not kosher meat. And except for that sin that I did every other sin you can possibly imagine. So Rabbi Zamir said, okay, and what was your punishment for that? So this Jew looked at Rabbi Zamir and they told him, after when he passed away, for the first 6 years that he was in hell, every day they would take him and put him in a cage. Abotai, this is first to understand. They would put him in a cage and they would release dogs, hungry big dogs into the cage, and an angel would stand over the Jew and he would announce all the averot that he did. And they would send those dogs, and those dogs would eat that Jew up alive every single day. And after they rip him apart alive, they bring him back to life and they put him back in the cage. And like that for 6 years. Now Rabbi Zamir said, why dogs? He's never heard of a punishment like that. Why is your punishment dogs? This Jew told him, in the Torah, what did it say? Neverot v'trefot, any non-kosher meat, who do you give it to? You send it to the dogs. And I never sent it to the dogs. I sold it to the Jews. So not only that I got punished that I sold to the Jews not kosher meat, I also stole from the dogs. So that punishment, it's against both of those things. Now this Jew tells Rav Zamir, 30 days ago, they came to me and they told me that they're changing my punishment. What's my punishment? They said that they're going to change his punishment, that they're going to take him to hell and to burn him 3 times a day. And like that, for the past 30 days, every day, 3 times a day, they take him to hell. An angel stands over his head and announces all the sins that he does, and they burn him alive. And like that, his punishment is for 30 days. Now, this Jew came to Rabbi Zamir and they gave me a couple of moments to come to one person to ask them that maybe they can fix something. So this Jew went to Rabbi Zamir and said, please, try to find something to help me, try to find something to fix my neshama, because I don't see an end to this. So Rabbi Zamir told him, what's your name? And Rabotai, one of the things that people, not good people, after 120 years, they don't remember their name. That's why we do, there's a segula, that when you do Shmona Esrei, between Shmona Esrei, you read a Perek Tehillim that has the first letter of your name and the last letter of your name. Because you forget in Chibut HaKever. We're not going to talk about that. So he said, what is your name? He said, I don't remember my name. So he said, so what city did you live in? And he told him the city where he lives in. And he just told him the city where he lives in, and suddenly he disappears. Rabbi Zamir wakes up, and he understood that his time was up. They didn't let him continue talking. This Rabbi Zamir said, listen, I cannot let a Jew, I cannot let the neshama of a Jew go through that. I have to do something to fix it. So Rabbi Zamir, he picked up his stuff, and he went towards the city that he went to. In the city, he started searching. He said, I'm looking for the son. Maybe this man left kids. Maybe this man that right now he's in hell, he left a kid, that maybe we can try fixing something through that. And they said, that Rasha, yeah, we all know him. He was a big Rasha. He left one kid, but his kid's even worse than him. His kid is even 10 times worse than what his father was. So there's no point. Rabbi Zamir decided that he needs to try. So he approached the son of this Rasha, and he started slowly by slowly explaining to him. He told the son of the Rasha what his father goes through. He told him all what the punishment that his father goes through, and that he needs to do something, and he's the only one as the son that can fix this. So little bit by little bit, with a little bit of patience, Rabbi Zamir convinced him that he'll teach him Aleph Bet. He'll teach him the Aleph Bet. After he taught him the Aleph Bet, Rabbi Zamir, he saw that this boy, he has the potential to Be'emet grow. And like that, he sat down with him and he taught him. They started from the lowest, the simplest learning of Torah, to slowly by slowly he started to go bigger and smarter and bigger and bigger and bigger. Till slowly by slowly he became a Talmid Chacham. The son of the Rasha is a big Talmid Chacham. Rabbi Zamir, there the Zohar says that Rabbi Zamir, he married him off. He made sure that he has everything that he needs to stay alive. And Rabbi Zamir actually even took him in as a son. One day, Rabotai, Rabbi Zamir, when this boy became a Rosh Yeshiva, when this boy that he helped him and he raised him became a big Rosh Yeshiva, one night he had a dream. And in this dream, who comes to the dream? The Jew that came to him a couple of years ago. And he tells him, he tells him, because of what you did, not only that I'm not in hell anymore, every single time that you taught him one more halacha, every single time that you taught him one more mishnah, they took me and they brought me to a higher place in Gan Eden, every single time. And not only that I am not a Rasha, this person says I am sitting right now between tzaddikim. Rabotai, Rabbi Zamir named this boy Rabbi Nachum Apikoli. What is Rabbi Nachum Apikoli? Rabbi Nachum Apikoli, it's the man that took his father from hell and brought him to paradise. He named him, he changed his name to the man that took his father from hell and brought him to paradise. Rabotai, for you to understand from where this person got to, where he came from to where he got to, Rabotai, what prayer did we do? What prayer did we do 3 times a day? Shmona Esrei. Who wrote Shmona Esrei? The son of Rabbi Nachum Apikoli, Rabbi Shmuel Apikoli. The prayer that till this day we do 3 times a day is from the grandson of the Rasha that sold Nevelot V'Trefot. Rabotai, Teshuva is something that we can all do. Teshuva is something that it's mamash in front of us. Teshuva is something, it's a second that we take that decision, we hold on to that decision, and we run with that decision. And if we run far enough with that decision, we can change everything, but in 1 second, Rabotai. So Rabotai, before I finish, I want to say one more story that actually has to do with my father. That it's the same inyan, it's the same subject. You know, Rabotai, a long time ago, 25 years ago, when my father came here as a young person to Los Angeles, he met a young boy, a young Israeli boy, that he didn't keep anything. He was far from the religion. And what would he do for a living? His job for a living was that once a week he would take a plane, go to Las Vegas, and he would gamble. He was very good at gambling. He knew how to play his cards. He knew he was so good at what he did that's how he would make a living, and he was very rich. Once a week, my father would sit down with him, and they would have a small shiur. My father would try to bring him back, slowly by slowly, with patience. And to show you how good he was, my father says that he was even banned from so many casinos because he was so good at what he did that no one allowed him to continue coming back. One day, this young wild Jew was in a casino, and he meets a young girl. And he starts talking to this young girl, and they started to talk, they became friends, and they started to date. Now this young girl wasn't Jewish, of course, and she actually, by chance, was the daughter of the owner of one of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas. He found his place, mamash, at home. And mamash, she was very rich. Her father was very rich. My father says that he even, not the father-in-law, they were only dating, bought him a very expensive sport car. That sport car, the key was made out of gold. And the key was completely diamond on the entire key, to show you, Rabotai, where he got to. They dated for a couple of years, but he never had the intention to ever marry her. He said that he was a young person that wants to have fun. So he never planned on marrying her. One day, her father comes to her and tells him, Mechila, her father came up to him and said, you know, you're dating my daughter for so long, there's no way. Or you marry her right now, and the amazing part that she was the only child, meaning you marry her, everything is yours. He said, or you marry her right now, or you get out. I don't want to see you ever again. This young boy, he found himself with the biggest dilemma in his life. He has one side, he doesn't marry her, and he goes back to his life, and he's going to be most probably banned from that casino. And also, if he marries her, he married a Goya. So he called my father, and he was crying, and he was confused. He said, I don't know what to do. I found myself in a situation where I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. So my father said, listen, take a flight to Eretz Israel. Don't make a decision now. Take a flight to Eretz Israel. Go to the tzaddikim. After you go to the tzaddikim, come back and make your decision. I can't make your decision for you. So he said, okay. This Jew took the flight, and he went to Eretz Israel. That was the last time my father ever heard of him. The man disappeared, completely disappeared. 15 years later, that's around 7 years ago, my father took the yeshiva at the time, and he decided he's going to take 3 buses with all the yeshiva and all their families to where? To the tzaddikim. And like that, all the families, the whole yeshiva, they were going towards the tzaddikim. They went to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes. And when they arrived at one of the tzaddikim, they see a rabbi brought his yeshiva too. He brought his group. He had like a small kollel of 15 bachurei yeshiva. And when this rabbi sees my father, he looks at my father and he runs. He jumps on my father and he starts crying and kissing my father. My father's looking at him. He said, okay, it's a rabbi that's jumping. He jumped on him and he's kissing him. And he's saying, don't you remember me? So my father said, I'm so sorry, I don't remember you. What did he do about that? He opened his button, he put his hand down his shirt, and he pulled out the golden key. He said, this is the one thing that I kept. I kept one thing, and I kept one thing to always remember where I came from. And like that, there's even a couple of pictures, a video of my father and him there dancing at the Kivrat Tzadikim. So Rabotai, Teshuva is very close to us. Teshuva, it's mamash in front of our face. We just need to reach our hand, grab the Teshuva, take that decision, grab the Teshuva, and we run with it. If we grab the Teshuva and we run with it, Rabotai, we can change everything. Now Rabotai, in a couple of days, it's Yom Kippur. If there's one time that you can find that moment, I promise you, it's in Yom Kippur, and if it's not from Yom Kippur, it's in the next 4 or 5 days that you have. In the next 4 or 5 days, we should all, Bat Hashem, search, and we should all have the merit to find that one moment where we change everything, Rabotai. So Bat Hashem, B'chut Ba'al HaBayit, that may Hashem give you Bracha v'Atzlacha b'Kol Ma'aseh, and Mordechai that helped organize Bat Hashem, Chuppah Shana, and B'zchut my grandfather Tzaddik, Rabbi Moshe Pinto and Rabbi Chaim Pinto, שהקדוש ברוך הוא ייתן לכולם פה, will give everyone here ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיכם, והקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא את כל מישויות לבכם לטובה. שנה טובה וטובה.